The beats, the flow, the rhythm. All movement starts from the streets. Streets A&R Podcast.
Man, sometimes I just miss people that can just speak clearly into a microphone and actually say something. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, I love my new school little homies. But damn, I'll be missing like just English and diction and proper punctuation. Right. Sometimes like
an enunciation.
Enunciates.
Enunciate.
Man, it's refreshing. That was a throwback. We done fucked around and stepped into a big hit on accident.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah, another one.
Another one.
Another one.
And look, we just gonna keep this rolling because we gonna have something else later this week. But man, this is just amazing, divine timing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes,
so divine that the man that was on the microphone got the same phone issue as Johnny here.
Man,
it didn't make no sense.
I thought it was my phone for a second. I'm like, dang, who done got my other phone?
Man, it is good to be here once again, man.
Yeah.
Rolling.
That's
how we snowballing,
man,
in this heat, this hot ass heat.
Episode 26.
This is yes sir.
26.
It's 26. We passed the quota.
Yeah.
That's past a lot of people's quota. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Episode 26, Streets A&R Podcast. Look, they hype in the bag. Oh no, look, the lyrics done did something, man.
It was the beat for me.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm like, hey, who made that?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Some smooth boom bap. We gonna ask him in a minute.
Yeah.
We got we definitely got royalty in the building. We got someone who we look up to, and I think the whole Omaha community looked up to for a very, very long time and continue to do so. Y'all remember we had our poetry event, and this is one of the individuals who had to give us that blessing before we could just jump out there like that. It's always good to consult, the people, the pioneers and the elders in the game before you just do something. So you get doing it right. It's like the old proverb, you gotta ask before you can speak when you're the youngest. So it's always good that the elders, the elder statesmen, they get first say. And they can get only say if they choose to. But this individual allowed us to speak and let others speak in the name of spoken word and poetry.
Man.
A true gem to everybody she comes in contact with.
Man. Dope
ass beatboxer and shit. No wonder you found your husband. Y'all see, I was finna just drop. So you just got to do a whole tape, even if it's an EP. You rhyming to her beatboxing.
Oh my god! He beatboxes too, so we have a blast. Rhyming and
oh man. Listen,
that's a great idea, actually.
You gotta do it before the episode drops, so don't nobody steal the idea. At least get it, one track out, one track, like EP on the way.
Oh, the Cashers. We were just talking about that. Listen. That's our last name, so Cashers, right? So we're working on something.
Yeah, man. But we definitely got some royalty in the building. We got our auntie, our blessed auntie, Miss Felicia Casher in the building. WithLove Felicia in the building.
Yes.
Give us some. Yeah. And alongside her, we got her king, who just happened to that was him spitting.
Man.
We didn't know.
Man.
We learned today.
Man, got straight learned.
Man. Grand agent in the building, man. Man, we are so glad y'all here.
Man.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. I just before we get started, man, it ain't too many guests where before we get started I gotta speak. And before we get started, I gotta speak. What you and Michelle was able to do with Verbal Gumbo, the platform that y'all created for young artists, and the ability for young artists to not only get paid, but to know that they were worthy of being paid for their artistic abilities and values that they bring is something I can't quantify. Zig Tape 2. I remember coming down there to the Verbal Gumbos and testing all my materials for Zig Tape 2. So I just want to thank you. You know, I get the chance all the time to talk to your son.
Yeah.
Phenomenal young man. And I just get to tell him that I don't think he all the way knows who his mother is, what his mother represents. And it would not be no Johnny No Good if there wasn't for no Verbal Gumbo. So thank you.
Oh my goodness. I feel very blessed and humbled by your words, Johnny. Thank you. That's really all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You too, Eric. I heard you in the introduction, and I am not only humbled, but I'm honored that both of you are doing this work to continue to carry the baton of artistic expression and bringing people together for the greatest good. And I just want to say, as I do, if you notice the kind of posts I make, like, deep bow to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you. And with that, just so people have some background, he mentioned Verbal Gumbo.
Yes.
Can you explain to the folks who don't know? Because, it's a whole generation gap
now.
And so explain to people what is, because there's no longer a was.
Right.
Yeah.
What is Verbal Gumbo?
So Verbal Gumbo is a spoken word open mic that also celebrates the creative in every facet. So you can be a novice poet, you can be a master wordsmith, you can be an MC, you can be a singer, and you can have a small business, you can be an artist. But what we do in this space is we celebrate, we praise. It's a cleansing of the soul on the mic. It's a cleansing of the heart in the space. It's a connection of soul. I call it soul church because we believe in praise. And we're going to praise you whether you're on the mic. We're going to praise you whether you have a business. We're going to praise you if you're an artist and you're showcasing your work. We're going to come together for the greatest good of our community as creatives and celebrate and love on you. So Verbal Gumbo is like gumbo, but the roux and the ingredients are the people, the passion, the love, the connection, the culture, the diversity. So Verbal Gumbo is a spoken word open mic for everybody that is listening. It manifested in 2011, and we're having a reunion tomorrow at the Benson Theater, June 16th, to honor Juneteenth, as well as just come back and give people a little spice. Yeah.
Man, we're so appreciative of just that platform and being there. That was one of my first dates with my wife.
Was it?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that was early. So I'm always appreciative of that atmosphere and what it provided in that space, and not just the physical space, but just the space to kind of be and see others be, whatever that is for them. So yeah, it's amazing. And this is going to be a question to both of you in your respective skill sets. What was the pilot? What's the start of you being a wordsmith, and in your own retrospect? So as a poet, what started you on that journey? And Mr. Agent over here, also, it's going to be the same question. What started you on that journey of being a wordsmith, and where are you coming out of? I think your home bases have a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Do you want me to start? Okay. Interestingly enough, and it's funny how things work in divine order, my base was hip hop. So when hip hop hit the scene and finally got to Omaha, Nebraska, because of course it had been in other spaces and places, I saw men in the hip hop game, and I was like, yo, what are they doing? That is like dope. I just love the idea of being an MC, like I was like, this feels like fast poetry. You know what I mean? Based on what I had learned in school. And I loved it. And I just was so attracted to the intonation, the storytelling. Because when hip hop hit the scene for me, it was either party music or they were telling you a story about life, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a little different from some of the work I hear now. No judgment, but I guess it changes over time and space, and then hopefully it comes back to the basis, right? And the basics. But I just loved the art of MCing. And so the first thing I did was, I was an MC. My name was Madame Feli. I was. So I would go home and practice and write my rhymes because the boys at the time, and I know we have different gender terms now, but at the time when I was coming up, there was boys and girls. I just want to put that out there. No judgment to anybody else's definition or how they define themselves now in this present moment. But boys were the ones rapping. Mm-hmm. So I went home and practiced. I pulled out my pencil and my pen and I would write so I could come back to school and get in the cipher with the boys. And I would write. And I was like, I got to be a part of this, because it was so exciting. And then we had ciphers. So when you had a problem with somebody, sometimes you didn't fist fight them. You battled them, lyrically. And I was like, oh man, like this is just so friggin' dope. And then I was around people who also were loving hip hop. So there were DJs like DJ Real, the Young Rebels, your mentor, because he was a part of they were a part of the Young Rebels, and they was out and had a crew. So you saw it happening, but you didn't see a lot of women. You didn't see a lot of girls. So I did my best to be like, I want to be in this energy, this fire, this storytelling, like to tell my story. And so I first started off as a battle rapper.
Giving niggas bars.
I was. Listen, I remember one of my first bars. And it went like, walk by, Feli, and don't say excuse me. I throw a rhyme that'll hit you like a Uzi. Like, I remember, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I got to come hard. You know what I mean?
You about to have to write that down.
Then I saw beatboxing, and I was like, I got to do that too, because the guys was only doing that. So then I would go home and practice. I would go home and practice, right? And I was like, this is so fly. So then what happened when I was in middle school, at the time we called it junior high at Nathan Hill, Miss Shirley Terrell took me under her wing and she was like, I think you would like poetry. Have you ever written poetry? And I was like, tell me about it. So she told me about it. And then she got me involved in like the NAACP's Axel Awards and competition rather. And I wrote a poem and I won in Nebraska and got to compete in California. So I was like, this is cool, because poetry is nothing more than the basis of hip hop, right? Mm-hmm. Not the basis of hip hop, because hip hop is a culture, but the basis of MCing, right? Mm-hmm. And so then it became just whenever I felt, and then I moved more into poetry. But when I think about it, if I feel like playing around with my husband, we'll rhyme and have fun. But it's still in me. You know what I mean? Like if I ever needed to pull it out, I suppose I could. And I still love beatboxing. So that's part of Verbal Gumbo, right? We beatbox the birthday.
Yep.
We always do that. You never see that anywhere else, but that's one of the things that we do. So I've just kept it with me. So that is the foundation of how I got started and became a poet. And I love it. So hip hop was my mama, my mother and my father,
Man, I can only imagine y'all in the house, like, about to have an argument. Like, man, turn the beat on.
We don't do that. But we do have some funny moments. Like, it's a lot of humor in our house.
Mr. Grand Agent, man.
Yeah.
What's up, man? Tell the people who you are, man.
Man, this is it's a pleasant surprise right here. So, yeah, Grand Agent, right? So, I grew up in Philadelphia. As far as how I started, I grew up in the 80s, mid to late 80s, as, hip hop was just becoming very powerful. And, Philadelphia being the history that it has in terms of everybody knows Gambling Hub, Philly International, da da da. Even before that, there was another big label called Cameo Parkway. Stuff like American Bandstand started in Philly. So Philly always had a rich musical history, but only with just like this much music industry, like just enough. So, you know, by the time hip hop started taking off, 85, 86, you know, there was quite a few rappers from Philly who did independent records. I mean, Will Smith is one of them.
Yeah.
And then started getting major deals. Schoolie D was another one. Very famous song. PSK been sampled many times in hip hop. And the third kind of top three guy was this guy named Steady B. And then later he had a partner named Cool C, or, you know, they had a little clique. Eventually their path went left and they ended up doing life prison biz for like a botched robbery. So anyway, but I like this guy, and what I liked about them was, I mean, I'm like 11 and they like 16 and they got records out, right? So it looked very doable. It looked very realistic. And I liked, it just always struck me as a powerful platform. You know what I'm saying? You know, this is something that we can shape the culture with. Even, you know, I don't know that I would have those words at 11, but I always had that in me, like, I'm gonna need a platform in this world. And it just came to me like that. So, you know, I just started, you know, turning the record over. You know, I used to get my little allowance or whatever, save it up, go buy records. And I would just turn over the instrumental and just start writing. And it just kind of went from there, you know, progressing through the years. When I was about 19, I kind of started pursuing a career. You know, I went to LA and you know, like that record y'all played was part of the first album I put out called By Design. That was 2001. Actually, that beat you heard was by High Tech. So it was, you know, high caliber producers involved.
That's who did it.
Lord Finesse was one of the producers. This guy, Cutmaster Kurt, who was very hot at the time, helped Dilated Peoples become, you know, who they became.
Yep.
Ended up doing a record with Pete Rock, probably is one of the most notable ones. Worked with Camp Low, toured with Common, you know, everybody who was popping in the, you know, in the original like raucous era. I was all in that scene. So that's kind of like in a nutshell, and where that took me, kind of chasing that dream. I ended up going to Europe for a while. Had some success there, stayed over there for about 2 years, really just a lot of work and touring, etc. And yeah, and came, so that was like 2001, came back like 2004, something like that. And just you know, the music industry was changing, you know, digital stuff was coming online and everything was moving from CDs to MP3s. And so that a lot of people took a hit like that. And then you know, at that time I had a son, and I kind of just went off into family life for a while because most of my income and making records and stuff came from touring. And then so when I didn't do that for a while, I started getting into some other stuff, and you know, I guess we'll get to some of that later, or maybe we won't, or I'll tell you about it. But that's generally you know, my story. And so yeah, I love making records. I still do it. And hopefully we can talk about some of what I'm doing today. But that's in a nutshell. I mean, I just came to the planet at the exact time that hip hop was coming up, and it got me, you know.
Man.
That's it.
This man had the heavy hitters on his
Yes.
album. Like, God dang. I know some of y'all youngsters have no clue, but they are still active. Like that, like
That's right.
Yes.
all the producers, they're still active.
That's
so
right.
I actually still get Pete Rock tapes just to listen to the instrumentals.
Oh.
So yeah, man.
I think he just got a Unsung. I gotta check it out. TV1. They just got a Pete Rock episode of Unsung.
Oh man, that's amazing. So my man just name dropped 83 names on so I want to ask, when it comes to your artistry, we just heard a little bit about who you've worked with, but Felicia, who are some of the people you have been afforded the space to work with, just kind of because of being a wordsmith or family? Because I know some.
You want me to drop names? Okay, that's fine. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. There used to be a time where I didn't drop names because I was like, I don't want people to treat me differently because I know this person or this person is in my family.
Well, you are established now. So.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you never know what the future holds in terms of family. We've talked about things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the cool things is, and this is actually how we met. We met in the 90s in Philadelphia. We were just cool. We were just artists on the scene. And at that time, people hadn't made it big. And so there were open mics and showcases where people were developing their talents and then coming to be who we all know them to this day. So there was nothing to be at an open mic with The Roots, Jill Scott, Floetry, Jazz, Jaguar Wright, Kindred the Family Soul, music. So they would be at the open mic. So the open mics that like you all put together, that I put together, they would be at the mics. So and this is before they were known. They were just figuring it out, trying it out. So it was nothing to be on the same stage with them or right after them or before, that's just what it was. And to to be a part of, what was it? What they called it back then in Philly, like the neo soul movement.
I think that's the name that was put on.
Yeah, that was.
None of us called it that.
We didn't call it that. We were just.
Was the branding of it.
Yeah, like
neo
to
soul,
right. You be at a garage and Bahamadia was performing. I mean, like it was just no big deal. So I have been on stage or after people with the group that I was with at the time, Daughters of the Diaspora. Davine, rest in peace. She's with the Ancestors now. My partner in that realm in Philly. But, so anyway, that was nothing. You just were a part of it, I always tell people I was at an open mic with Jill Scott the first time she sung. She was missing her grandmother and she was a little tipsy. I mean, that's just real time. So she was just like, I miss my grandma. I'm not going to do a poem tonight. I just want to sing. And so we're like, okay, And she got on the mic and we were like, what? You know what I mean? Like, this is this phenomenal poet that, goes to all the open mics and so forth and, tears it up as a poet. But she sang and we were just all in awe, like, Jill, you can sing. You know what I mean? Like, and then the next thing you know, she is who she is to this day. So that was incredible to bear witness to. You wanted to name drop. I was at the Five. Was it the Five Spot? Is that what they called it? The Five Spot was a space where artists developed their skills. They weren't signed. And as I had mentioned some of those names, that's where you got to practice. You basically practiced in front of an audience. I mean, not like it was your practice. You still had your set together, but you got to try out the different pieces that you were working on. And one time I was in the audience and it was this British group on the stage and they were Floetry. They had just come from Europe, went to Atlanta, and then when they were in Philly, figuring out their way. And I looked and I said, in the audience while they were performing, Marsha. Well, Marsha is my first cousin, Marsha and Brosia. So she looked and she was like, Fifi, because she can call me that now. Everybody, y'all can't call me that, okay?
Watch your mouth out here. Watch your mouth.
You cannot call me that. And she stopped like in the middle of the set. And like I went up on the stage and we hugged because I had no idea, because we had been out of touch at that point in time. You get grown and you're doing your grown thing and you're figuring out life.
This was before Facebook.
Yeah, it was. So it was before all of that. And so, Floetry blew up, right? And then they grew apart to do their own projects. And now Marsha is doing some incredible work right now. She's about to drop an album. And I think she put it out there already. So Dr. Dre produced it, and that'll be coming out soon. So yeah, it's been an honor to walk in this light and meet the people that I have met and know the people that I do know. So I'm very grateful, and I don't take that for granted. Of course, there's some other people along the way. Right now, a major hard hitter that blessed Verbal Gumbo was Harold Green. And if you don't know who that is, if you look him up, he has 2 phenomenal books that he did about people across the United States, Black people, let me be real clear, that have made an impact on our community. And he's touring, and he came to Verbal Gumbo and was a feature,
That was what, 2014?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
He was dope. I remember that. And I remember when you had the feature poet who came, who did improv pieces.
That was him. He was the one.
That was
you could
fire.
give him a couple words and he improv. Now he's got put books and he's touring.
Fire.
Crazy.
Fire.
Yeah.
Like improv poetry, or he was like
Improv poetry. Yeah.
Right on the spot, different type of talent. Omni got that type of ability. But
Yes,
just
big ups to my
improv,
son.
Just the improv on the spot, different type of talent.
Yeah.
man.
Different type of talent.
We should do that. I'll hop in that arena. That's the
Listen,
one I'll
bro.
get in.
Listen, we was talking. This is why we was talking, and I was talking about a plain no open mic ain't sustain. Listen, bro. Listen, we be talking, but you don't be hearing me, bro.
Maybe we'll do something like that tomorrow because I like doing improv poetry too.
Listen.
So yeah, if you come through, let's see. Let's might have the improv cipher.
They had to learn something a little bit when we first started. We had to learn them something.
Yeah.
Stop playing with me.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
playing. Don't do that. Don't do it. man, John, I know you got.
Man, I'm sitting here observing, man. I just I almost feel like it's too early for me to say anything, man. You know, honestly, I'm just sitting here observing. We do got Mr. Grant Agent over here, you know, and he did just name drop. You know what I'm saying? He dropped names. But you didn't tell us how you got started into music. So how did you find your love of music?
Oh yeah, I thought I touched that at the beginning. I mean, for me, it was always rap, and it was always records, right? And why did I say that specifically? Like, I mean, I know how to do a show. You know, I can. You know, if people come to see me, they're gonna be entertained. But something very, even aside from the music, I mean, music is one thing, but records is another thing, right? Because a record is like it's a record. I mean, it's a record of the moment, and if it's a little different now, I'm guessing, but you know, for whatever opinion or thought you might have about how commercial stuff works or how the radio works, like you could turn on the radio and see the psychology of the culture in the moment. Like now, you listen to the radio, everybody getting shot on the radio, everybody getting shot in real life, right? So like a record to me is a very important thing because it could be an artifact. So for me, it's always the record, right? So when did I know like, oh, I'm gonna do this? Well, the first time I walked into a big studio, right? I was in school, I was in an arts program, you know, a recording and a video production program. We had a project, make a record. We go in the studio, I see the board, I'm like, oh yeah. I left school the next semester. All right, I know what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always about that because a lot of how we got jammed up and tricked up as Africans is because the record's been switched. You know, it's false records that we've been fed. So the ability to capture something, like fix it in time, so to speak, and like you like that. I listened to that record, like, you know, whatever. I was 25. I'm like, okay, there's some good ideas in there. Obviously, I wouldn't do it the same today, but I could see where I was at that time. So that's a record, right? And so who sees where we'll see where Grant Agent ends up. But somebody can always go and say, well, in 2001, this what he was on. This, you know, and that's important because really, again, when you think about being Africans, right? Oral tradition, all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and as we move through time, we gotta be more and more conscious of controlling, preserving, archiving our narrative. You know what I'm saying? Because typically, other people, historically, you know, all them records over there, right? You might 100 black people singing on them. How many black people own the recordings? All that kind of stuff. So I think that's my attraction. It's not. I'm not even that musical of a person, believe it or not. Like,
Okay.
and some people will tell you, so I be singing and stuff. They be like, "Oh my God, you got," because that's not what it's about for me. It's really about the record and like I could deliver this message. And God willing, it be timely and people could start thinking different. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of that's my own personal thing on it. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Because it's always one of those things you always want to know the why behind what people do.
Yeah.
You know, especially as an MC. And I
Yeah.
think it's one of those things where music is a tool. And sometimes the intentionality behind music being a tool gets lost in translation a little bit.
No doubt.
So Felicia, as far as for you, making that transition from being an MC, being in the hip hop culture arena, being a performing artist, how did you make the transition to curating the spaces? How did you make that transition?
Oh, that's a great question. After being after being immersed in Philadelphia and seeing how spaces of Black people could come together and share their gifts and talents, I was inspired. So I came back to Omaha after I graduated college. I went to Temple University, came back, and I was like, ooh, you know, like I want to find a space where, you know, we get an opportunity to share our gifts and talents on the mic. So I was going to some karaoke's and I was going to some other places. And I went to Borders one time and there were people sitting down reading their poetry. I was the only, and Borders doesn't even exist anymore, right? So this was in the late 90s. So I went, I'll never forget it. And I was the only person of color. And they were the people were sitting in a circle. It was really nice.
I'm laughing at myself. I feel out of the loop. I didn't know Borders didn't exist. I'm like, hold up. There ain't no Borders. There ain't no bars. Hold up.
Yeah,
I didn't realize Borders.
I used to love Borders. I mean, because you could get really cheap books, right? So I went to this they had like a flyer on their board, and it was like poetry or whatever. So I went, and people were reading like their books, and it was really nice, and people have different stories. That's one thing I love about my husband in terms of like, we control our narrative, right? So sometimes, oftentimes, for me, other people have narratives. The sky was blue. She wore purple shoes, and a butterfly flew by. And that's wonderful. That is wonderful, right? But there's something about Black people telling their stories that is uniquely different from anybody else. Because we're telling stories of experience. Let me be real clear. Storytellers, wordsmiths, right? Poets. We're telling our story because it's a lived experience. It's not often flowery. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist. It does. But it was different. So when I went, I had my poem memorized. It was in my head. And I had different intonations. And I had a little song here. And they were like, do you perform? Are you a performer? And I was like, well, yeah, I just did my poem a little different from, everybody else. It was different, because I think that when we are trying to be intentional on the planet and disseminate information, it's important to capture moments of experience so you can pass the lesson on to somebody else, right? At least for me. So after going to different places and spaces, I never forget, I had a friend gosh, I don't even know where Kevin is to this day. We were talking one day and I said, man, I just can't find a spot that, really I fit in. I just can't, I tried to go to Hank's. I tried to go, I was going all these different places,
1.0, Hank 1.0.
It was 1.0 then. And it had, don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about Hank's in a bad way. I'm just saying it had its audience. Mm-hmm. But what I was looking for was people to have an opportunity to express themselves on the mic, and it was their work, mm-hmm. and experience what I experienced in Philadelphia. So I never forget, my friend Kevin said to me, well, if you can't find a place to be at, create your own. Mm. And I said, what? I said, you're absolutely right. Mm. So the first space created in Omaha was Inforhythms. It was at Daisy Mays on 10th and Jackson. Daisy Mays used to be one of the first vegetarian spots. They just were ahead of their time. If they were existing now, they'd be on and popping.
It remind me of McFoster's.
Yeah, and it was only them two. So it was Daisy Mays and McFoster's. Daisy Mays was a little bit more hip in terms of, they would try out different things. And I ended up working for them. So I put them on the cheesesteaks and all kind of stuff. And this was in the 90s. And it wasn't really like on and popping like that here in Omaha. But now, you know what I mean? Like they would have blown up if they were here now. So the owner at the time, Angel, I told her I had this idea. She said, go for it, Felicia, And we did Inforhythms, which was disseminating information and using rhythm and soul to make it happen. So we had a DJ. People would go up and perform. It's actually the first time I heard Michelle perform because she was a closet poet. We worked together for this organization, an after-school organization, and I was like, I'm putting on this event. I want you to come out. She was like, oh, I haven't shared my poetry out loud. And I was like, let me see your stuff. And so she shared it with me. And I was like, girl, you got to share this. Because I truly believe our gifts aren't for us. That's so egotistical, right? Our gifts are for the greatest good of humanity. Our gifts are to touch somebody else's soul, to heal somebody else's spirit. It's bigger than us. We get real egotistical if we think that it's about us. It's not about us. So I got her out of her shell. Inforhythms was first. Then the next one was the owners of Grooves approached me. That was Steve and Darius. And that was right across the street from House Saloon, which at the time wasn't a House Saloon. It was Soul. It was Planet Soul.
Where House Saloon?
That was Planet Soul.
I always heard about Planet Soul.
Oh man, it was on and popping.
That was the spot tonight.
That was the spot.
That's all I heard about was Planet
Trying
Soul.
to figure out what building they was in.
It was the House Saloon.
Oh Lord,
That makes
they
sense.
was packed in that.
That was back in the. Listen, I promise you, it used to be on and popping and it was bigger than what the House Saloon was. It had the building next to it, so you could go and chill where the couches were, and there was something going on over there. Then you went all the way down to like where that barbershop is or that beauty shop. I can't remember what's over there. And then that's where like the music was playing and people were dancing and it was hot and sweaty and all of that. But you made a point to be at Planet Soul.
Pheromones flowing.
What? Yes. So, Grooves was across the street, and their idea was, listen, we got these live musicians. It was the David Collins Trio. David Collins no longer lives here. He's from Omaha, and he was a part of some of the first bands that were here in Omaha. And they had a jazz trio. It was 3 musicians. And so we combined poetry and a live jazz band, and that was packed. Now this is the difference with this. Now this was all black people. This is what made it so dope, because it was a black band. I was a black host. It was owned by black people, and black people came every Sunday. It was every Sunday. It was weekly, and it was packed weekly. And so that was an incredible space, because like Darius and Steve knew everybody. So Big Les came by there one time, and comedians would drop in that they knew, and I don't even know like half the people that they knew, but they would have people just show up. And then the next thing you know, it's like, what? So that was super dope. And actually, from that point, Michelle ended up hosting after me because I was with Omni, and at the time, you could smoke in the clubs. And I was like, I can't be around smoke and be pregnant. Like, I'm not trying to bring my son into the world like that. Now, bless his heart, he ended up with allergies and asthma anyway. But, but I was doing the best that I could to be like, I can't be pregnant, with child and womb and be around people just smoking because they, you could smoke in the clubs. It was like no big deal to smoke in the clubs, cigarettes and,
whatever.
Sometimes other things. So
all changes ain't bad. All changes ain't bad.
Smoking laws and seatbelts and save a lot of lives out here.
A lot of lives.
And I'm not, by no means am I incriminating anybody. It's just that you could smoke a cigarette in a club back in the day. I'll just say that, right? And so people did. They smoked. So anyway, that began my journey in terms of creating spaces. I was like, oh, now I can control the narrative, right? Like as you talked about, babe, controlling the narrative. So even back then, I know everybody is into like smudging and sage, but in the 90s, every event I had was smudged first. And so I never forget Darius one time on Facebook said to me, Felicia, I know everybody talking about sage now, but isn't that what you was burning in the club? I was like, yeah, because we had to get the club energy out because we were trying to create something different in this space. And you had, booty shaking and, you know what I'm saying? You had a different vibration the night before.
Right.
And I wanted to shift, you know what I'm saying? Not to say that, you don't appreciate a nice booty. That's fine. But this was supposed to be a laid back, eclectic, informative, jazzy experience. And I wanted to, and that's what smudging does, you know what I'm saying? Like it cleans the energy of whatever was there before so that you can create new energy. And that's what that was about, yeah, so.
Yeah, it's crazy because we having trouble now getting either one of those energies to go. Like, golly, everybody in the club standing around looking at each other on their phone, making a recording of, yeah, we here, we lit, and then to sit there and post to tell you lit instead of being lit.
Right,
I was confused. What happened to the gene marks on the wall? We're trying to get them back. We gonna get them back. We getting all those spaces back. We reclaiming it all.
Oh, yeah.
They all are necessary. Y'all got here because of that space.
That's right.
And you got centered because of Felicia's space.
Yeah, and that's what it was. So I'm grateful that I had a gem dropped on me like that to just create the spaces I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question. It's kind of shifting gears a little bit, but I don't know if you all had the opportunity to listen to Kendrick's new album, Kendrick Lamar's. And, of course, the most polarizing song on there is the We Cry Together, the argument.
Yes.
But it's really a metaphor because he says at the beginning, this is how y'all sound, like on the internet with the back and forth. And with you all coming to union with as powerful as you all are, could you talk about the importance of joining and being in Black love and what that means to fostering that relationship and what it means to the people out here who are looking for that type of thing?
Wow. If this is not divine timing, we were just talking about that this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, really.
Well, lay it on us.
Go ahead, baby.
Well, that's a very vast question and subject, but without a doubt, just from personal experience, I had to grow up and grow into, and I still am, the desire. Now, this is not everybody, but where I grew up, I didn't have a homie who had his father in the house till I was in my 20s. And when I started going to do things in other communities, like go to school down here or go. So my whole upbringing was, that single mom, mama's boy, which fosters that pimping mentality, all that, everything that was not be a man, but you told this is how you be the man, or you told you the man in the house. And so for me, it was a lot of growing out of that to first understand the value of a good partner, right? Or the value of being equally yoked and what that can do for the trajectory of your life. Now, I know I was in other relationships and found myself like, what the fuck? And I knew the relationship had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was attracting that and I was into that and I was on that. But when it came down to it, and you like, God damn, it's like,
Whole demeanor shit when you talk about them, like, shit.
you know the choices that you made got you here. So, you know, for me, it was a lot of healing, a lot of working on recovering from trauma. You know what I mean? I ain't ashamed to say it. A lot of therapy, a lot of different groups, and you know, I never been how can I say it? Because along with the madness I saw around me, I did see people get into recovery and turn their lives around, and so I saw the full gamut. You know what I mean? And so when my time came, when everything I knew wasn't working no more, I by the grace of God was able to start turning it around, and it's a slow turn. And you know, so you know, I end up 2 years ago, right? And you talking about somebody who was never without something or somebody that I could, you know, I mean, I'm talking about from 15 on, from the first piece on.
Yeah.
I made sure I could always get it. Okay, right? I'm serious. That's who I was. So after that whole roller coaster, horrible marriage, horrible divorce, single parent, all that, like, and doing the work, I end up in 2020, you know, like single for the first time since the first time. I'm talking about from 15 to 2 years ago. 30 years straight of just playing games, right? So I'm like, damn, like I'm single. And it was great. You know what I'm saying? It was beautiful. It was like, don't nobody think they my girl. Don't nobody, nothing. I'm single.
I ain't got to lie.
You know what
I
I'm
ain't got to
saying?
lie to kick it no more. I'm chilling.
That part.
And just right when I'm celebrating that, like I'm in therapy. I'm like, we digging deep. And, you know, Felicia and I, you know, we didn't talk since whenever, 98, 96. We're not even sure of the year. Till about 2017. I was in an accident, you know, major like vehicle accident, and it got around on Facebook. She reached out. So that was the first contact I had with her in that whole time. So, you know, yeah, I'm good. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. So, you know, but, you know, I seen her. And she was, I mean, obviously always attractive. And, you know, even back then when we was younger, for whatever reason, we just never went there. So, you know, I'm like, damn, so she would just come to mind every once in a while, but I was in a relationship. So I'm like, even by that time, I'm like, I'm at least not going to make no messes. This relationship might be a mess, but I'm not going
That
to.
No ad, no mess.
Yeah,
Give thanks and praises.
So, you know, so again, like I'm still working on me. I'm working on me. And, you know, I end up single and just, you know, I end up in therapy one day and I'm like, you know, this woman been just coming to mind, right? So my guy's like, well, tell me about it. What's up with it? So I'm like, you know, she live in Omaha and this and that. So he's like, wow, it was just some, they had some bad weather out there recently. Yeah, he was like, that might be a reason to call. You know what I'm saying? So
Find a way to run some games.
So I mean, this is my therapist telling me this. It might be a reason to call.
Shout out to the therapist.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all ain't talking
Right.
the therapist was throwing alley-oops. Hey, Peyton, what it do? What it do, Peyton?
Man.
So I reached out, and then it just really kind of went from there. But to answer the question, you know, look, man, we not creating havoc in our community. You know what I'm saying? And that's because we worked on ourselves. We made ourselves available and ready to do the other work that comes once you really get in there, because then other stuff come up.
Yeah.
But you know, if you haven't been prepared by example, you're gonna have to prepare yourself on your own. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it was for me. I mean, Felicia's story very different. 2 parents the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So that's, I found that mind-boggling, to be honest with you. I mean, I just didn't grow up with that. None of the homies did. Nobody did. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's what it's about. You know, like Black love is powerful because, like, one of the elders I look up to the most in Philadelphia, you know, who has done extraordinary things healing the community. She always say, like, the family is the problem, but the family is the solution. And so we gonna have to love each other out of our conundrum, one way or the other. So that's the value of it for me. You know.
Man, you following that up?
I don't even know what I think my king said everything, you know. But I will say that I'll add this part. I did grow up in a 2-parent home. But I think the narrative at the time around what a 2-parent home looked like may have changed over time and space. So I know that my dad was the provider. You know, my mom raised the children. Even though she did work, I saw my dad providing, my mom caregiving, right? And I was the oldest. So I was raised to be highly independent, to the point that in my life, dating was challenging at times because, and I'm not saying that this is wrong by any means. I'm just saying that this was my experience. If I had to take the trash out too, I didn't need you. Right? Because I learned that. I learned to take out the trash, cut the grass, clean the gutters, change the tire, you know, and then all the other stuff that, quote unquote, was what women did too. So if I was doing all the stuff that I learned growing up, it made me hyper independent. I didn't know how to be, and I can honestly say that I didn't know how to be interdependent. And then it intimidated people, you know, that on top of here you are in the public eye, right? Like, how do I approach her? Right? I think in some instances, and I say this with love, some people just felt like they got lucky, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then I was private, you know, like if you didn't put a ring on it, nobody really gonna know that we together, you know what I'm saying? Like, you might come along. And I have strong feelings and care about you, and I love you, and I've had some incredible lovers over the years. I'm very grateful for all of them, right? But it took a lot of work in terms of self-reflection, unpacking my shit, right? And then recognizing that some stuff ain't even yours. It's just stuff that's carried on from another generation that you carried, right? And, you know, when we reconnected, I had just graduated from a spiritual warrior training with Iyanla Van Zandt. So that was 6 weeks of intense assignments, work, spiritual fortitude, you know, and I couldn't even tell people that I was in it because she was very adamant, like, the people that got picked to be a part of this basically this rites of passage, this is not about everybody knowing this. This is about you doing this work. You know what I mean? So there was an assignment every single day that had you reflecting about yourself. I mean, to the core of who you were, your flaws and all. You had to do certain things every single day which demonstrated commitment to yourself and to the God within. And it was really powerful and transformative, which was in alignment with who I am. So like, if you've seen my posts or heard me speak, that I tend to lean towards the spiritual side. Mm-hmm. But that's just been always a part of me. I just don't say everything that I've been a part of, like I've been in workshops with Dr. Jewel Pukram, been in workshops and trainings with Queen Afua before she was known, you know what I mean? So that's been a part of my journey. You probably just like, well, something about her. Yeah, it's because that's been my journey. But right before we got together, I had to do this was like a cleansing of the soul, you know what I mean? Like, because I don't think I would have been open. And so for me, our marriage is still a learning curve. Like, I'm still learning some things like, oh, wow, it's not just me. You know what I mean? Like we can make a decision together. I don't have to just worry about that. And Black love, based on the history of who we are as a people and what we have been through in this space, it's revolutionary because everything is against us not to be together. And some of that we know historically was and is by design. They don't want us to be together at all. There's so much stuff out here right now. You think you're supposed to be with him, her, them, they, everybody and their mama right now. Like that's supposed to be the look, or, it's all about getting money, or if you ain't flying me out to Europe on the first date, I ain't going out with you. I mean, we have been bamboozled by the wrong record, as my husband mentioned, right? That narrative is not true for us. But once we finally realize who we are as a people, because what we experienced here in this space, that was just a part of our story. That ain't the story. We got to go back and see what we did and how we ruled and how we created and how we learned and how we taught the entire planet. So yeah, coming together, attracting your divine right mate, partner, helpmate, it is a revolutionary act. And honestly, you cannot do it without the Creator as the foundation. You just cannot do it.
Breathe.
That was heavy, man. I think it was one of those things. It's kind of like when the sister told me you can't have a revolution on an empty stomach. It's like really to move in a space like this where kindness is viewed as weakness and where hate is a definitely guiding force. Love is very, very powerful, and it is an act of rebellion. To move in love, to express love, to be love. Like it is an act of rebellion. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that question.
Revolutionary act.
Love is that's the master healer. It's the thing that everybody desires, and at the same time is ready to talk shit about it.
So I guess then, right, as we get ready to wrap up the conversation, and I want to ask my final question to you too. We done talked about where y'all been. We talked about things that's happening. What's going on now? What's next? What y'all working on? What's some of the things that y'all got in the brew? Because it's disrespect to call an artist an ex-artist, because once an artist, always an artist. So I know y'all always creating. What's next? What y'all working on?
Shall I?
Yes, baby, you should.
Okay.
Proceed to rock the mic. You know what I'm doing tomorrow? Okay, I'll just say this real quick. Tomorrow's Verbal Gumbo. It's the reunion. I'm going to say this real quick because my husband has a little bit more to say. But Verbal Gumbo, the reunion, an opportunity for people to come together for the greatest good and experience live and in person power, passion, culture, poetry, love in real time. So I look forward to seeing everybody in the house. Make sure we support our creatives in the marketplace. We'll have some limited t-shirts, really dope t-shirts for Verbal Gumbo. And we're just going to be in the house and we're going to have a good time like we always do. So that's the big thing of what I'm doing right now. Aside for some other stuff a little bit later, but that's in this moment. We talking about real time. Books, affirmation cards, sage bundles, finishing plays. I'm gonna have to get my husband to help me on that one. But those kind of things, those are in the near future.
We're gonna come back to them affirmation cards. We ain't gonna just drop that in there.
Don't forget, I don't remember that play you told me about a few years ago.
Yes, that play yes.
Is that the same play you performed?
I know, and I was like, oh my God, I took up all this time. All I keep thinking of, oh my God, it was too much time. But yes.
Okay, not powerful performance. Yeah. For you, Grand Agent.
Come on, Grand Agent. Come on, baby.
He came ready.
Yes,
he did.
He been playing modest. He came ready.
He always ready.
So, I mean, this is it for me right now, right? So, at the end of 2020, since 2009, I hadn't lived in Philadelphia for 12 years. I lived in LA. I lived in the New York area. I just wasn't in Philly. And I lost a good friend of mine lost his mom at the end of, around my birthday, 2020. And I went home and just started missing people. And I was like, because I just left Philly because, one, as a trying to break into the music industry, like I said, the lanes was really clogged. And it's the type of place sometimes you got to get your stamp somewhere else and come back. And they like, oh, yeah, I know him from, it's kind of one of them things. So, long story short, end of 2020, people getting killed left and right. They running up a, 500 body count. And I run into a homie of mine, and he's like, this guy I went to school with, and we was actually roommates for a while. I actually forgot about that. This is how long it's been since I've seen him. And he's a firefighter in Philly, coming up on 20 years. And he like, yo, man, he's like, we ran into each other at this grand opening. One of our other homies opened a barbershop. And we're like, oh, man, we started talking. So he real heavy-hearted about the gun violence. And long story short, we start talking, what can we do? We talk ourselves into launching this app, right? So we got this app called Philly Truce. We've been through a couple little iterations of, and still tweaking it to make the best, make it as effective as we know it can be. But essentially, it's to give the people in the community an opportunity to get mediation involved in something when they pretty sure it's going to go left, right? And why is that important? Again, back to our narrative, our record, ain't nobody dealing with the cops. We know that, right? So essentially, people in our community have resigned themselves to, live among murderers as opposed to turn them over to the police. I mean, that's a hard way to say it, but that's the truth. So we don't deal with the police, and we promote that very heavily on the website, phillytruce.com. We are not affiliated with the police. Essentially, we recruited some volunteers. We had them trained as mediators, and we just started taking calls. We promoted it. We got in the news, whatever. So we've been figuring it out for a year and some change. We just had our first anniversary on May 21st.
Second, baby. It was your second anniversary.
No, that was the second Philly Truce.
Oh, yeah. The first anniversary. Yep. I stand corrected. Yeah.
Right. So this is going on, right? And it's definitely beautiful to be in a new city talking about it, because part of our vision is to export it. But right now, what can you do if you live in the Philadelphia area and you need help? You can just put this app on your phone and get help. You don't need to live in the Philadelphia area to volunteer on the app, because anybody, anywhere, obviously, like any other app, could take a call. And this is just some basic instructions, or how do you feel to call, and forward the information to us. So that's kind of like my life as of lately. Philly Truce, right? And boy, has it consumed our life.
Yes, right? Our life. Yes.
So that's yes. What we up to. Now, what's this poster I'm holding? Now, everything I learned in being a recording artist has become useful in doing this, right?
Yeah.
No surprise, that's how life works, right? No degree, no nothing, just like common sense and getting people hyped, all right? That's all it is. Like, make a spectacle, promote it, get them involved, see if you can get them to stay. So anyway, so now I'm bringing my music self, entertainment self, in to help promote this movement. So we got our first album, Truce Music, and we just going with Philly Truce. You know, Grand Asian is just one of the featured artists. So this record called Zero Homicides Now, this is our first single. It's featuring Blizzy Trill, one of my proteges, great artist. You can watch the video right here. You could listen to the song right here. You can download the app right here. So this is like what Grand Asian is up to. You know, we are. It's always about the story and the narrative. We rewrite in real time the narrative of Philadelphia as a people who brought themselves back from the brink of destruction. And if you know Philadelphia, or if you know any northeastern city from Boston all the way down DC, it's all about tough guy, chip on the shoulder. I'm gonna get you before you get me. So we're talking about generations of this mindset now. But I'm gonna end it with this. As soon as I got into this work, I learned of a story, a Philadelphia piece of history that I never knew. Philadelphia not really big on gangs, Bloods, Crips, super organized, but there was a time when it was more organized. You know, in my parents' time as teenagers, in that generation. They called it gang warring, right? And it would be just like, you know, this corner versus that corner, that block. Same scenario. You know, they used to just come out and rumble, or, you know, somebody might get stabbed, somebody might get beat with a bat, right? But they like what schedule rumbles, and like
tribal.
Oh my God, exactly, tribal, very tribal place, Philadelphia. So a woman, Queen Mother Falaka Fatah, and her husband. This woman found out her son was in a gang. She said, "Oh no, that can't be. What we gonna do?" They moved all 15 members of this gang into her house. 15 guys sleeping on the first floor, on the floor. Long story short, that evolved into a whole institution. It's called the House of Emoji. And they brought the gang-related violence from whatever that number was when they started, 68, 69. They started in 72 where they had a gang summit. I mean, this woman, and it reminds me of myself because this woman was a music journalist. This is what she did. She used to write articles. And she was just going with it. She wrote to the UN, how do you conduct a summit? Took the UN rules, had a gang summit, 1972. So this was the beginning. A couple other campaigns. So by 1976, there was 0 homicides from gang-related violence. That means, you know what I'm saying? Like, by getting involved, aggressively involved in these young brothers' lives, they stopped killing each other. And I learned that one of the pivotal things that David Fatah, he has transitioned already. At the gang summit, he read this book. It's called 100 Lynchings. And, you know, it's just newspaper clippings of lynching stories. And so he read this to them, and he like, what are y'all beefing about? This is what we all facing. What are y'all beefing about? Some corner you don't own, some...
Yeah.
And they turned it around. So I'm saying all that to say, that's my vision and my prayer for Philadelphia. 0 homicides now.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So hopefully we can play this record, and I'm gonna leave this here and leave a couple flyers so your next couple guests can know. And that's really what it's about right now. Philly Truce. That's it. Philly Truce.
Yes, Philly Truce is our life.
Yeah.
It is. And I help put on events. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes,
Felicia's been extremely patient and supportive. I mean, we've done peace patrols, go out ourselves.
Yes.
We've beta tested everything with our own bodies and money. So now we're at the point where it's like, okay, we figured out a few things. We organize in the business of it. Now let's grow it and really blow it out. But it fell in my lap kind of just about the same time we got together. And to answer your question again about without the right woman, I couldn't do this. You know what I'm saying? Imagine I had to argue every time I got to go to some, you can't do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So this marriage, this union, this relationship is really has opened the door to purpose. Not that we didn't have purpose before, but when people really going to do something in the world, I mean, you could, you might see some kids come up but if you're going to do something really substantial with your life, I mean, we at the age and the time where you really start to hit your stride. You know what I'm saying? We mature enough to not fuck it off. You know what I mean? We mature enough to not take it for granted, but we young enough to have energy and passion to commit to something. And yeah, I mean, look, we tell each other every day how grateful we are for one another.
Yeah.
We don't go to bed mad. Like we protect our relationship because we both view it as a gift.
Yeah,
That's it.
absolutely.
Man. It's time to walk off on that one. That's a walk off home run. I just want to give gratitude and thanks for both of you all joining us, and undeniable, necessary information to be shared with everybody that we talk to and just to us in this room in general. We appreciate y'all for coming. We're excited. We're going to listen to this song after we get done recording because my man camera dying. But we definitely appreciate everything that y'all have done, are doing, and will do.
Thank you. This was a blessing to be
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Yeah. And we just got off the road, right?
Driving. How many hours?
Today was only 6.
Yeah,
we
but
left Philly
Y'all split it.
yesterday
At 4 a.m.
We made it
yesterday.
to Joliet, Illinois. We took the night there, so we had about 6 hours a day. But I used to drive tractor trailer.
Okay.
It's
He's like, it's nothing.
It's
It's
manageable.
something.
Yeah. It's dope. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
well, we look forward to a great event on tomorrow.
That part.
We look forward to tapping in, seeing how we gonna tap in a little bit more on that. That Zero homicides at Philly Truce. Because we got our own things here.
Yeah.
So it could be something that can definitely grow and be of use in a lot of places. So
Amen.
we appreciate y'all, man. We gonna get on up out of here, man. You youngsters got school and stuff. They got jobs. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're grateful to you all.
Thank you for having us. I love the name Streets A&R. That's a brilliant name. I love it.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
wish y'all much continued success.
Thank
as
you,
well.
man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. It has been a blessing.
All right. Thank you. It's your host, Giddy Jicky with it.
It's your other host, Johnny No Good.
We got Miss Casher,
Miss
with
Cash.
love,
Mrs. Catcher, yes.
Casher. And we got our guy Grand Agent in the building, man.
Grand Agent Casher.
Right. Give him the cash.
That's right. We attracting cash and abundance and wealth and health and joy and adventure and opulence and luxury. Come on now.
She couldn't leave without a poem, man. We
Ah.
Hey, that was the affirmation.
That's exactly what it was.
Affirmation. Hey, real MC right there.
Right there. All right, we out of here, y'all, man.
All right, peace.
The beats, the flow, the rhythm. All movement starts from the streets. Streets A&R Podcast.